And this is the last video on the MIDI effect plugins. This is not about a MIDI effect plugin though, but rather a function that is only available for Logic after version 10.7.5. Before we get into it, this is about the Record MIDI to track here. If you are at a version before 10.7.5, it will not be available on your system. There is a workaround though, so keep watching if you want to do that, if you're in previous version, and it has some advantages over the new function. In this video we will look at both of them. So now, what does it actually do? This function allows you to record the MIDI effects output to a MIDI region. So when you use the effects, they do something on the notes that you don't see on your region. You just hear it. So let's say for example you have one chord, and then you put the arpeggiator on it. It will arpeggiate it. Or the note repeater will repeat the note, whatever. You only play back the chord and then you listen to the effect of it. You don't see it on your MIDI region. With the Record MIDI track here, you can actually record the real-time processed output. And then you can go ahead and edit it as you want. So let's look at an example and you will see that it's much easier than it sounds. So let's use the arpeggiator because it is easy to listen to that effect. So I'm simply going to play a chord and then let's listen to what it does. Obviously arpeggiates it, but if I record this, I will only get the static chord, just the keys that I'm holding down. So let's use the function, the Record MIDI to track here, in order to record the output. So it is important that the Record MIDI to track here is placed after the effect that you want to record. So if you have more than one effect, let's actually do that. Let's use, let's use a transposer because it's easy to listen to. I do want the arpeggiator as well. And so let's set that up to, let's do 5 semitones. That is fine. So it is important to place it under the effect that you want to record. So in this case, I want to include only the arpeggiator. So I'm going to click on it and then go Record MIDI to track here. And you will see that the little orange arrows appear. And you see that it is above the transposer. So in this position, we will only record the arpeggiator. Let's actually go ahead and try that. Click on. And as you can see, it is a C7. It has only recorded the output from the arpeggiator, not the transposer. What if I want to include the transposer as well? So let's try that. Same procedure. So I'm simply going to the transposer and then click Record MIDI to track here. And now you will see that the orange arrows are under both of the effects. So now everything will be included. Exactly like before, I am going to play the same thing. So I will play a C7 chord starting on C2. But since we have the transposer on and we have it up by 5 semitones, that would be a perfect fourth. And the notes that will be outputted on the region will be an F chord instead of the C that I'm actually playing. So let's actually try that. And let's check. It is an F7 chord. Now, for the second method that is slightly more complicated but does have an advantage. The Record MIDI to track here needs to be played in real time. You can't have the region programmed and then have the output recorded to another track. This method that we are going to look at now not only can be done without having to play the region in real time, but it can also be done in any version of Logic Pro. So let's use the same example. Let's record the arpeggiator and the transposer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the region that we have. I will create a copy of the track. Actually, I don't need the plugins, so I'm going to take them off. I will write a C7 on the original one. There you go, let's have a listen. Now if it doesn't play back, that means that we have the Record MIDI to track here enabled. So I'm going to take that off and now it will play back. It's fine, let's actually loop it. And now what we need to do is to change some settings, and then we can go ahead and record on the new track. Now the first thing we need to do is to open up the audio MIDI setup. So let's actually do that right now. So let's just type in MIDI audio setup, and you probably won't see that window, so go all the way up to window and then click show MIDI studio. What we want from this window is the IAC driver, which most likely will be offline and grayed out. So double click on it. Add a port by pressing the plus sign and rename it to something that will make sense because we will use it in a bit. So let's call it LG, don't want the bass, LG for Logic, FX, and then Rec. And then make sure that device is online is checked, and that will make it online. It will no longer be grayed out. And that's it. We can go back to Logic now. And now on the main channel, we are going to change our MIDI instrument to an external instrument. So go to sampler where the instrument is, go all the way down to utility and then select external instrument. So let's do stereo. If you are at the previous version of Logic, then it will most likely be on this list here with the rest of the instrument. In any case, so this window pops up, and what we need to do is to select our MIDI destination. And for that, we are going to choose the one that we've written, Bass A. I didn't click apply, so it didn't get the name, but that should be it. And then click X, and that's it. Then all we have to do now is go to the new channel, record, enable it, press record, and now the output of the MIDI effects will be recorded on the new track. So let's actually try it. And that's it. It's as simple as that. Let's actually have a listen. And as you can hear, it sounds a bit weird, but don't worry, it's because we still have it armed. So once I take this one off, it will sound like it should. And that's it. Essentially, you have two methods, one for playing them live and one for recording them after you have played or programmed them in. And that concludes the part of the series on the MIDI effects of Logic. Now, even though I rarely use some, like the velocity processor, some are very useful and can produce a lot of happy accidents. So do take the time to learn the ones that will speed up your workflow. I'll see you in the next one.